For many Americans, arriving in Canada feels like stepping into a version of North America that shouldn't exist. The streets look familiar, the buildings feel known, the language is the same, yet something quiet settles over you. A calm that doesn't announce itself, but lingers in the air. You notice people walking without fear, parents letting their children drift ahead, not clinging close, strangers moving through the city with an ease you don't quite recognize. The air feels different too, not just colder, but softer, as if the pressure you carried back home starts to loosen, one small breath at a time. You begin to wonder how life can feel so peaceful just a few hours above the border. That question arrives early, like a whisper, because safety here isn't a statistic, it's an atmosphere, and Americans feel it the moment they step onto Canadian ground. The first shock deepens as you walk through a Canadian city. In the States, alertness becomes instinct, eyes scanning, feet moving fast, avoiding this street, circling around that block. But here, that instinct begins to fade. People walk slowly, casually, headphones in, faces relaxed, conversations drifting in the open air. Even late at night, the streets carry a quiet that feels almost unreal. You start noticing how calm everyone seems on public transit, how rare confrontation is in crowds, how few people brace for sudden danger. There's a gentleness to the rhythm of the city, a confidence so subtle it takes time to understand. And somewhere inside you, a question forms. Why does this feel so different from home? Then comes the deeper shock, the one shaped by Canada's relationship with guns. In the United States, their presence sits beneath everything. School drills, public anxiety, quiet calculations made in crowded spaces, a tension woven into daily life. But in Canada, that current isn't there. You feel it in conversations, in small disagreements that stay small, in public spaces that don't seem to buzz with hidden danger. Even in busy places, the absence of that invisible pressure becomes emotional for many Americans. Canada isn't free of crime, but the weight people carry is different. You don't walk around preparing for the worst. You don't read strangers as threats. For those raised in constant vigilance, the calm can be startling, comforting, a glimpse of life without an edge. Another surprise emerges as Americans begin to notice the trust Canadians place in their public systems. It isn't loud, it isn't proudly displayed. It lives in small habits, almost hidden. Parents letting children walk to school alone. Seniors riding transit at night without fear. Teenagers claiming parks without a cloud of worry hanging overhead. It becomes clear this isn't luck, it's belief. Canadians trust that police will help them, that emergency responders will arrive, that healthcare won't ruin their lives, that communities are built with safety, not profit, at the center. And because people trust the system quietly works in return. Laws are followed not from fear, but from respect. Neighborhoods stay orderly because suspicion doesn't rule daily life. Cooperation does. You see it in unlocked bicycles resting outside local shops, backpacks left in playgrounds untouched, lost wallets returning home because honesty isn't rare here, it's expected. For Americans unaccustomed to such faith in institutions, this quiet reliability feels almost surreal. What truly stands out is the sense of community woven into Canadian life. Not a loud community, not one that demands attention, but a gentle current, steady and persistent. You see it when cars stop to let someone cross, not out of obligation, but instinct. You feel it when strangers push a snow-stuck car together, sharing the cold without complaint. In winter storms, neighbors check on one another, doors open, help arrives before it's needed. In Canada, kindness isn't an event. It's a default setting, a quiet understanding that everyone shares responsibility for keeping the peace. That collective mindset reaches into everything, into how cities clean up after storms, into how people return lost items, into the way doors are held open without a second thought. Even in the busiest cities, where schedules tighten and patience thins, the tone remains steady. Cooperation over conflict. Calm over chaos. For Americans used to navigating alone, used to survival as an individual mission, this shared sense of responsibility feels almost unreal. It isn't perfection, and Canadians would never claim it is, but it's a way of living that makes safety feel like a collective achievement rather than a lucky break. Over time, something unexpected happens to Americans who stay. A slow unwinding begins. Muscles unclench. shoulders lower. The constant scanning fades. You walk without bracing. You ride the bus without gripping your bag. You trust people, quietly, almost rebelliously. Confusion comes first, then calm, then freedom. Americans often describe this shift as a cultural exhale, a release they didn't know they needed. The vigilance they carried for years begins to dissolve. The tension softens. You start to see how much energy once went into simply existing back home. And once you notice the difference, you can't unfeel it. Safety becomes more than a number. It becomes the absence of the silent weight you used to carry. The weight of danger imagined, rehearsed, expected. Canada offers a glimpse of life without that burden, and for many, that glimpse is startling. It reveals how unsafe they felt even when they believed they were used to it. Canada isn't flawless. Canadians say so themselves. But the safety Americans feel here can be disorienting, like stepping into an alternate version of what life might be. A place where danger doesn't shadow every corner, where people don't walk with fear tucked inside their pockets. Here, the average person moves through the world, expecting calm, not crisis. They don't brace when someone walks behind them at night. They don't rehearse escape routes before errands. They simply move, steady and unguarded. Not because danger is impossible, but because trust runs deeper than fear. And that feeling isn't built on luck. It's shaped by countless small habits: patience in traffic, courtesy in crowds, respect for rules, trust in institutions, a shared belief that society works best when people look out for each other. Living in Canada teaches Americans something subtle. That safety is emotional as much as physical. It's measured not only by crime, but by the space inside your chest, the space where tension once lived. Maybe the greatest shock is realizing how much of your identity was shaped by danger you thought was normal. Canada reveals the difference gently. It shows what life feels like when the invisible weight is gone. And once you experience that feeling, it stays with you long after you leave. Canada doesn't just offer safety, it offers perspective, a reminder that calm communities aren't fantasy, that trust can exist between strangers, that a society can function in a way where people feel protected instead of threatened. It makes you wonder what life could look like if more places embrace the same patience, the same courtesy, the same quiet dedication to the common good. Because if a country this close to the United States can feel this different, then distance isn't the real separation. Priorities are. And that leads to the deeper question. What would it take for other nations to feel this safe? If this exploration opens something in you, stay close. There are more stories waiting. Stories of borders that divide and cultures that connect. Stories that reveal how two nations can stand side by side on a map, yet feel worlds apart in daily life. The next encounter will change the way you see the world around you.